Hello, everyone, and welcome to Barnard Refresh Q&A Friday. I'm Deshaun Cook, the Assistant Dean for Student Life, and I use he, him, they, them pronouns. Just as a reminder for everyone in the campus community, Barnard Refresh is a new summer series led by the Office of Student Life to help reintroduce you to campus resources and staff. Every Friday at noon, you can find us live on Facebook or YouTube interviewing a staff representative from an office on campus. Then the following Tuesday for Treat Yourself Tuesday, we'll be tabling in front of a tent on Futter Field with some great treats, and you'll be able to connect with the staff members from Student Life and also the staff member we interviewed in person. Now, for our guest this week, we have the Executive Director for Community Engagement and Inclusion, Cami Jones, who's charged with developing the college's approach to civic and community engagement through facilitating relationships between the college, community leaders, and stakeholders across the city, as well as in Harlem. Throughout her career, Cami Jones has coordinated several global and domestic summits on civic engagement, youth action leadership, development, and the future of women's rights. Originally from Dallas, Texas, Cami Jones is a first-generation college student and holds a BS in kinesiology from the University of Texas at Austin and holds a MA in higher education administration from Louisiana State University and A&M College. So without further ado, let's bring Cami Jones into the room.
Timing.
I try my best to use my radio announcer voice.
I love it.
Yeah, so Cami, thank you so much for joining us today. You know, we're so excited to have you here and to hear about the amazing work, you and your office is doing for the campus community and the Harlem community, as well. So how about we start with, our favorite question, for staff members. Yeah. What is your role on campus and what does your office do?
Yeah, first, thank you so much for having me this Friday. I've been looking forward to this, and just thank you for the entire team in Student Life for making this happen. In regards to the role, in a lot of ways, we are the ecosystem and hub in regards to civic and community engagement on campus. We are the ones that are going to work together to bring everyone to really think intentionally around what does community engagement mean? How do we create sustained partnership? And how do we work alongside our community stakeholders to provide sustained partnerships, initiatives, and engagement, especially as we transition to a post-pandemic era where there's going to be a lot of need in response to the community at this time. So we'll be doing this in a lot of different ways, from student-led initiatives, faculty-led initiatives, and just generally leadership development and training, but in partnership with all of the fantastic offices on campus that have done this work in unique ways. And we're just going to be providing an innovative spirit, so to speak, to pull it together and really expand on this work during this time, and doing it from an equity lens, making sure that we're being inclusive in the work that we do, that we have many opportunities for folks to have their voices amplified in different modalities, I should say, in regards to engagement. So we're almost 4 months old. And we started in a pandemic, which is interesting. So we're getting there, and it's just been really exciting to have all these conversations with the different stakeholders that you mentioned, and partners and community groups, to really understand what community engagement means, ways that we can work together, and really thinking about the future of this work. So it's a really exciting time for us in the office.
Oh, most definitely. And, we've seen the amazing work you've done in the short amount of time that your office has been, on campus, and really appreciate, what you're doing for not only the Barnard community, but also the surrounding, community. And, as the Office of Student Life, of course, we're all in, about student engagement and providing them with, alternate forms of interaction in the community. Yeah. So what resources can students expect to find when they come to your office?
Yeah, with this office, is really in a lot of ways going to be the first stop, I would say, for students in trying to explore the different ways that they can be engaged in the community. So maybe you just want to understand Harlem, the history of it. You want to align with a particular agency or to explore. We'll provide, the community, I should say, direct service opportunities with different organizations. I have learned that just in West Harlem, which is where we're located, and we represent Community Board 9, we have hundreds of nonprofit organizations just in that block. And there's so many opportunities for students to be engaged. So that's one way. We're also thinking about the academic experience. So we have Barnard Engaged courses, which is an opportunity for students to partake in the civic engagement experience through course curriculum with a community-based project. So that's going to be another opportunity for students to be engaged. But we also had Third Space. That was a partnership between Athena as well as the Center for Engaged Pedagogy, and really thinking about if you have an idea and you want to ignite and you have this spark, what do you do next? And so our office is going to help students create student-led initiatives alongside the community based on a particular focus, whether it's housing justice, food insecurity, or outreach and engagement with young girls in Harlem. There'll be an opportunity for us to provide that framework and structure and training, I would say, and development around project initiation, especially as we transition and reacclimate to our communities. And then, of course, I love to have conversations and dialogue around the different social justice events that are currently happening and trying to contextualize that from a local to global perspective. And so we'll be having community conversation series that we started, I would say, in April that will continue and allow for different speakers to come in, focus on a particular topic, and then give the audience an opportunity to explore, to engage, but also just to have a moment to reflect on the times and what's occurring. And we were actually able to do something together in April around that. And so that was successful, and we'll just continue on with things like that. But our purpose really is to have a strong foundation and to create pathways to get to know the students, and also hear from them in regards to what they need. And we also are really interested in advocacy work. Sorry, there's so many things. We're going to have an advocacy.
All of it.
It's like so many things. We're going to have an advocacy series because we have 2 students that are really interested in this work. So from voter engagement and disenfranchisement to really thinking about environmental justice and housing justice. These are current issues in the community in Harlem. I think sometimes we think about it at such a national level, and then what's lost is how to be actively engaged in this on a local level. And so we'll be providing those gateways to have those conversations and teach-ins and discussions around that. So that's a quick gist, and then there'll be surprises, and then there'll be students that come in, and this is the office where I want to be, where a student could just come in one day and say, hey, I have this idea. I want to be involved in this. What do I do? And our office is going to be that space to ignite and extend that spark. So if you have ideas, that's also the place to start as well. And we're just looking forward to the unique and fun ideas that we're going to hear from our students, especially in the fall semester.
Oh, most definitely. And any, thing that we hear from students as well, those who want to get connected, we definitely want to direct them, toward, like we, do a lot with social justice education and identity inclusion, community programs, orientation. So we want to make sure that are working, together.
Yes.
Similar goals. And it's great that, you're going to be working with faculty, staff, and students to, get them to think globally about the events that are happening, on our planet, but also acting locally, and really activating and coming, into community, those outside of the gates, especially in the immediate, West Harlem, area. And, we're, I think, all kind of like looking forward to, and also kind of like not sure what to expect when we come out of, well, this pandemic will probably last longer, but when we start to get back on campus and working, with students, some may not be able to wait, until the fall to kind of like get engaged with the office. So I'm wondering, are there any kind of plans for events and programs and points of engagement that you have in the works for either summer A or summer B?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And we definitely have seen that a lot of students who are around right now are just interested in just getting outside and doing something. So we've partnered with 2 organizations to provide, I would say, pop-up or external volunteer opportunities. One is Street Lab that was created by an alumna, Leslie Duvall. And so we actually have students that are helping with pop-up tutoring and engagement around STEAM in the city, specifically in Harlem, Morningside Heights, and at other locations throughout. So that's been an opportunity that's going to be ongoing for the summer for students to be engaged. We also have a large elderly community in Harlem. And so there's an organization called Lily that provides a lot of different in-person and digital engagement opportunities to connect with the elderly community. And I think it's really important to slowly step into it, understand what's going on, and also be able to have the conversation of what it means to take space and agency within the community. And that's what's important for us as an office. How do we provide training and engagement around it? What is the technology? What's the history? And what do you need to be aware of when you enter these communities, which is really important because it really is working alongside the communities, not telling the community what to do. So those are some things that we're thinking about what we are doing. In the month of July, because we actually want to give folks time, in the month of July, we'll start having virtual office hours on a specific day, probably Fridays, where students can just pop in. Myself or students within the office will be able to just kind of brainstorm and talk about different ways that they would like to see engagement. So I would say small forums, or just if that student has that idea, they can connect with us. Another event that we have is with Community Conversations. If you've been following the news, the president just signed an hate crime bill in connection with the AAPI community. And so we actually are going to have a conversation with Congresswoman Grace Meng, who was monumental in pushing that actually on June 1st. So we had to switch things. We were supposed to have it today, but she ended up having to go to DC. And that is community engagement. And that's what happened. So she was in DC this week. It was like, we were so excited, but I actually found out about this last week. And so once we got the information from the staff that was happening, it was a realization within the office that, wow, there is a bill that's about to be signed because she's going to be in DC. So we're happy to have those opportunities for students to engage and connect, but we also are open to thoughts and ideas. We obviously don't want to overprogram too much because we know the students are taking classes in June, but we do have moments of opportunity for them to connect with us. And we also really believe in digitized civic engagement. And so we have an Instagram page that really allows for students to interact and find different ways towards pathways of engagement. And we also believe it's important to spread awareness and education around this work. So we do a lot of, I would say, community org spotlights and interviews on our Instagram page to introduce our community to Harlem, or reintroduce, I should say, in some aspects. And so you'll see every few days, there's different ways that you can learn about an organization that may be connected to a Heritage Month, that may just be connected with a theme for the week, whether it's like Earth Day, or for us, we're preparing for the month of June and collaborating with a lot of offices for Pride, but also thinking about Juneteenth. There's a lot of things that are happening in the community. And we want students to engage with the community, attend events, and really understand, what does it mean to be an active citizen? And there's different ways to be an active citizen. So that's another form of engagement that students can partake in as they're preparing for the fall semester and what our office plans to do.
Yeah, most definitely. And you mentioned so many different areas and whatnot, which is great because I think it really showcases that social justice, really encompasses so many different communities and topics and issues, and, everyone can find kind of their to be involved in and kind of navigate, towards your office to kind of find those additional, moments of engagement and be connected to many, resources, like just hearing that there are hundreds of organizations just within Harlem is like amazing. So like there's, no excuse for not being involved and being connected, to.
There's no excuse. When someone's like, I can't find, I'm like, I don't know about that. But yeah, there's a lot of ways to do this work, but just it's important to have the right mindset and perspective when you're entering these places, as I mentioned earlier, and really respecting
ethical service is really important.
Honoring the community, which is a part of our goals. It's really key for us is to honor the community and actually listen actively and empathically, I should say. So, yeah. So we'll be providing opportunities in the fall for students to meet and engage with different community partners that I've been able to connect with, along with my student leaders in the office. And so that'll be another way. I think with this work, we almost have to go back to the basics a little bit, especially as we are re-engaging with so many communities, the community within Barnard and the community externally to Barnard. And so I think it's going to be important for us to be mindful of that and not be overwhelmed, but slowly just talk about this is what community engagement is. Here are the things we're doing. Here are the opportunities, but here are the areas of growth as an institution in regards to community engagement. So those conversations are going to be really important for us moving forward.
No, most definitely. And when it's time to do in-person programs, you mentioned the Fridays and the drop-ins to your office. Can you remind us where your office is and also something that you enjoy about your space?
Yeah, so we're in a new space. CEI is going to be in Millbank 10. So that's like the basement or the connector corridor. I don't know. Being a newbie, I just know it's the underground connection to the institution. I know that through my location, I can quickly get to the post office and other areas of campus without walking outside. So I figured that out. That's exciting. But that's one reason I like the space. It's also connected with a lot of other important offices on campus that are around in that area. So we're not far from printing and events management and EOP. So, and technology, all important things for a new space. So I really like that there's a hub of community members within Barnard that are very close to me and that are accessible. And that is also, it's also a quiet space. I have to admit. I do enjoy that because, you know, with anything that's new and building, sometimes you need quiet moments, but they're doing a lot of work on the streets right now, which is New York City. So I'm adjusted to that. And there's always someone outside my office window that's hanging off of a building and scaffolding things. And I have a lot of birds randomly.
So never a dull moment.
I have neighbors, I have birds. And I found out, this is a fun fact, of this space, is that the campus plumbing is in my office.
How is that a thing?
It's so random because I actually met the campus plumber. I didn't even know. And he's just like, oh, so you're in his office. One day I was there. I was like, yes. He's like, so all the plumbing of the school is like right here. I was like, oh my God. And he had explained that the city, you know, has to come in sometimes and check it out. So it would happen to a community engagement office that we have in the space. So that's a fun fact. The water is all there.
Never knew that, but now we all know.
Yeah, it's right there in my office. And I can't put anything in. It's just this little corner that will never have stuff there. And people may wonder why. And it's like to make sure that everyone has access to the water. Yeah, fun fact.
Yeah. And the other great thing about your location is that once we get to the colder months that we have in New York, students, especially if they're living in campus housing that's within the Barnard gates, do not have to leave and go outside to get to your office. They can just navigate the tunnels to get to you.
There it is. Come see us. We're in the tunnel.
Okay, sometimes when it's below 10, none of us want to step outside.
Oh man. Yes, below 10. Oh boy. I'm not ready for that. Not ready.
Nope. Yeah, so Cami, as we begin to wrap up, are there any things that you would like to plug, for your office that, you haven't mentioned yet?
Yeah. I would like to plug our social media, which I love, but thankfully you have a strong student leader that's managing that. So our social media page is CEI Barnard on Instagram. And late summer, I should say in early fall, we'll be transitioning to a website and all of that. So in the meantime, I would say if you want to get information about volunteering, different events we're involved in, we also showcase a lot of different trainings and leadership development opportunities that are occurring within the community on our Instagram page. So this page is not just for Barnard, it's also connected to the external community. So we'll be highlighting a lot of things that are happening in the community as well, in addition to what my office is doing, because that is partnership 101. So I definitely want to plug the Instagram page. I also want to plug the student leaders that are the foundation of this office. We have 4 that focus on different aspects of engagement and will be the pillars, I would say, that will allow for students to find their pathways to engagement in the fall semester. So if you're interested in policy and advocacy and practice, we have Alexa Chan, who also is working alongside Katie Peterson, who's about to graduate, but she just has a strong background. I had to pull her in at least for a few months to give us insight around voter engagement, which is something that we'll be focusing on in the fall semester, because we have a lot of races in New York City that are occurring. It's not just the mayor, it's city council, it's Manhattan Borough president. It's all these important positions that we feel the students should be aware of and engaged around.
Yeah, most definitely.
That crew. And then we have our student who's doing all the digitized civic engagement, Arima, who is fantastic and is always looking for ways to engage with students. So if you have ideas, just DM us and she'll respond. And then last, we have a student and community outreach assistant, and that is Maya Darville. And she's the one that's going to be able to connect with students on campus that are probably already involved in organizations and programs. But she also works closely with me with connecting with different community engagement agencies, I should say, throughout Harlem, so that we have a database and can provide a list of opportunity and options to be involved. So those are the things I would like to plug, and really thank the students who have been with me since the beginning, I would say, in helping us build things out. So really grateful to them and their leadership in helping us solidify this office in a lot of ways on campus.
Yes. So thank you so much for doing this and being here and sharing with us all the amazing things that you're doing. Like, we're so glad and thankful to have you here, and are looking forward to the many opportunities you create going forward. And huge shout out to your students who are doing the work with you. We really couldn't our offices, we couldn't sustain ourselves without the work of our student leaders.
I really don't know. That's what I tell folks. I am just deeply impressed. This was my introduction to the Barnard student in a lot of ways, being that we were hybrid and I wasn't able to really be on campus prior to really get the vibe and understand the different ways they're involved. And I've just been impressed by their work ethic and their innovative spirit and their willingness to do this work, but they actually want to be a part of it and do the work. It's not just, I just want to do this internship or job. It really is community-minded students leading the way. And there's going to be further opportunities for students to be engaged within this office. As I said, they're starting it out, but we're hoping for other students through these pipelines to be engaged in this work as well.
And we're so excited.
Yeah.
So thank you again. And to those listening, or those who may be watching the recording, definitely join Cammie's area in this Office of Student Life on Tuesday. That's May 25th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Furter Field. We'll be under the tent. We'll have treats. I think we're doing Rice Krispie treats and Lara bars, and we'll have stickers and giveaways from your office. So we're excited to meet you all and engage and answer more questions, and come especially if you're here for classes and doing research, take a little break and get interact with us and do something fun with offices that you don't get to see as much now that we're still in this hybrid situation.
Yeah, we finally have some swag, so it really makes us legit. It's stickers. Our pins are held up, sorry, but we will be tabling a lot anyways. So more swag to come, but I'm excited that we have stickers. It's a big deal.
And I'll be looking forward to the pens, once they come
Yeah.
in. I'm excited about the stickers as well.
And tote bags, all the things are coming. So, we'll roll it out. I'm really excited about, tabling next week and meeting some students. So please come see it. And I think one of my students will be with me. So.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. So we get to meet the amazing student workers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you everyone for tuning in for Barnard Refresh Q&A Fridays. We'll be on hiatus next week for Memorial Day weekend, but we'll be back on June 4th with Holly Tedder from Cards. And we'll see you at our Treat Yourself Tuesday. Thank you again. Have a good weekend.